Hey YouTube, in this video what I'd like to do is kind of show you or give you an idea of what I've been doing with the X-Plane 11 library and manipulating the images and changing the colors and things like that. Sorry for my desktop being such a mess. I do have a few icons on there. We can ignore those. So first thing we're going to do is, well, I've actually kind of already gone and done it. Now my X-Plane 11 install is right here on the C drive on the root of C. I'm going to go into that and aircraft, laminar research, and Cessna 172 SP. Now these are all of the files that come with the Cessna 172 SP. I don't think I've manipulated or changed any of these, so anybody who's installed a full version of X-Plane 11 should have all of these files just as I have them. So you'll notice a directory up here called libraries. Let's go into that. And I have a few extras, some that I've made and worked with. And some of these are just defaults. The X-Plane 10, waves, scratches, old style, this N847 OS. Now I added the John Fly Carbon Edition and the G COVID. Full white is also a default. So I've gone ahead and I've already made a copy of full white this morning. But if we go into that, we have an objects folder, but it's only got the aircraft itself, and we can manipulate these files. But I would like to start by manipulating the cockpit files and showing you what I do there. So I'm backing up here. I'm going back to the Cessna 172 SP directory. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the objects folder that's here so that I have essentially a copy of them. And what I'll do is I'll put them in my libraries folder under my full white copy and also in the objects directory. I guess it doesn't necessarily need to go in there. I'll just drop it right here. Says it's wanting to replace Cessna 172 SP to full white copy, and what files in the destination are the same. Oh, the objects directory. So it's going to try to overwrite that. So let me rename this one. I'll call it objects old, just for the time being, and then I'll paste this new one in here. Now in this folder, I don't have the default white. Well, yeah, I guess it does kind of look like the default white. Let me just look at that for a moment, and I'll open it. I think I was hoping I had paint as an option there. Of course, it's a DDS file, so I'll open it with the Gimp. Yeah, and so this is not the default white file, as you can see. I'm going to go ahead and close that. Now we can ignore these files up here. These were files I was working with earlier. For the one that I was showing this morning, I backed it up to where I had taken out some of the coloring for the thread. I had actually completed that whole patch of thread there. We'll ignore that for the time being. So that is not the default white. That one actually has a pattern. So if I want to manipulate the default white, we'll have to go into this directory, and that one, where am I at? I'm getting lost. I need to go into objects old. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do copy, because that's what that is. And I'm going to set this one back. So this was the default full white copy initially. I copied it and it had this folder and these files, and we just copied this one in here, and this one has some files in it that we didn't have in the other one. Let me change that to large icons. So we're going to mess with this Cockpit.dds file right here. Now this is just the default file for the Cessna 172 SP that comes with X-Plane 11, and I'll open this with Gimp. Well, it'll probably open with a viewer. No, it opened with Gimp. Okay. Alright, so now we have it open in the Gimp, and let's start with the seatbelt. See how the seatbelt is black, and then also the trim is right here. Let me zoom in. Okay, so there's the seatbelt, and there's the trim. Now we want to make this trim a different color. Alright, for the sake of this video. So I'm going to go to the selection tool here. This is a free select tool. It gives me the opportunity, and I think I'll zoom in a little bit more. 200%, that should make it pretty big. I'm going to position that right there. I might move it down some so it's flat. And then down here, and I'm going to move this in and up there. So I've pretty much gotten everything, I think, except for this could come over just a little bit more. So it'll take a little bit of managing there to get it, and once you connect this dot, it's done. You've selected it. So I'm going to do a Control X right here, and it's cut it away from the main image file. And now I'm going to do a new layer, and we'll just call it Cockpit, and I'll do default. Trim, or seat trim. There we go. Now you don't have to put hyphens in there like I do. That's just my thing. All right, now that I have that layer there and it is selected, I'm going to go ahead and do a Control V to paste that back in there. And I think if I click anywhere outside of that, it will deselect it, but I can still manipulate it because that's what I'm working with. If I do this eyeball here, it disappears. So if I want to make the main image file go away and work with just that, I can just deselect the main image file. But I'll leave them both there for the time being. And now let's go to colors and colorize. And I can use this dropper to pick up any color I want. So if I want to make that a beige color, there it is. Or if I want it to be black, I can click on black, or maybe red. Whatever colors are already in this file, you can use that dropper for that. Or we can reset it here. And this is the default color that comes up when you reset it. So it would be this nice teal looking color if we left it like that. But I'm going to try to make it I don't know, let me just look. So let's do this slider. Let's say we wanted to do like the John Fly Carbon. We wanted to make it green. We like that green. So there it is. We've got green seat trim now. Now we don't necessarily have to have it all being the same color. We could make it so that it's green on one side and red on another, or beige on one side and gray on another. Let's click OK on that, like we're done with it. And now we've got a colored trim. So I'm going to use my selection tool here again, and I'll select halfway. It's not perfectly aligned, but close enough. Yeah, I could mess with it all day and not get it right. Okay, I'm going to do Control X on that again, and now I'm going to do another new layer, and I'll just add the number 2 in there. So I can differentiate, or I can even put half. You know, whatever name you want, really. It doesn't have to be anything specific. You can call it 1, 2, 3, or... Alright, so now that we have that new layer, I'm going to paste it in there. And now if I do this, you can see we have just that half. And if I do this, why is that half going away? Oh, because we're... Oh, that takes away all of it. That doesn't make any sense. I did paste it in there. Let me click off of it. There we are. So now we have that side as, and if we do both, it's gone. Okay, so one side is green, and we'll make the second side that we just selected, we'll make it a different color. Let's make it red. Christmas-like, I guess. And we can move this thing around too for different color shading. Alright. Now that we've got our trim, let's go down here to the seat belt. We'll use the free selection tool for that as well. We want to get the whole seat belt. So I don't know that it matters if you go into the black so much, we just want the seat belt to be colored. Okay. I'll do a Control X on that to cut it. Oh, I'm not on the right layer, see? So it didn't go anywhere when I did Control X. So in this instance, I need to select my main surface again, which is the primary image. That image is the one that has the seatbelt. Control X, and we'll go up here for a new layer, and we'll just call it seatbelt. And then we'll paste it. Control V on your keyboard will paste. You could probably go up here and do edit, cut, edit, paste. I just used Control X and Control V for those. Now we'll click out of it to deselect it. You don't have to, but I do. So then we'll colorize it. So there it is with the teal color there, but let's do the red and the green like we did. We'll start with green. And then let's do our selection tool again, just to keep it consistent with what we've done for our trim. And we don't have to keep it consistent. We could just have it all one solid color. I'm just trying to give you an idea of the things that you can do to change your colors. All right. Control X on that. Let's see, layer, new layer. We'll just give it seatbelt 2. Control V into the new layer. And now we go colors, colorize, and let's make it red like we did the trim. Now I don't know that it's exactly the same color red, and what I could have done there is I could have saved the color and I would have had it as a default down here to choose from. And these were colors I was using from, or that I made when I was working with the Snack Air library. So I changed from a green to the maroon, which is why I named it maroon. And initially I started with a nice red, and I was calling it red carbon and green carbon, which was more like that color. Um, so I could use these presets. Let me show you how to save it. So if I wanted to save this, we'll just call it red. And you don't have to call it seatbelt. I'm just going to name it that. And now I can go down here and I can, if I wanted to change it easily, I can just select these presets. So we chose red seatbelt. That's the color we did there, and I'm going to click OK on that. And now we can actually export this image. Now we could potentially modify other things in here. Let's have a look at what else is in here that we might want to change. This is the cockpit, so let's do the panel, the main panel. So with that, let's do the free selection tool. And what I do is I go around. Initially, I used to go all the way around these, even the bolts, and I would shade the bolts as well. But I've been instead using the free selection tool. I need to go on. We need to select the main surface again for this because that one is in the main surface. And you know that because if you click the eyeball, that's the part that goes away when we need. So this is where this dash is. So we need that. So let's start here. And I'm not trying to be perfect about it. You know, I don't think it matters if you select in the black at all. And this part needs to be, if you're not really careful on this part, at least in my case, I had to select just below the dash a little bit because it wasn't coloring the whole dash, and then I'd get in the aircraft later and I would notice, oh well, you know, just that little bottom there didn't get colored. So alright, I'm going to Control X on that to cut it. We'll do layer, new layer, and we'll call this instruments dash or cockpit. I'll just call it instruments. That's good enough. Control V to paste it in there, and now I will do colorize on that as well. And I'm going to use the dropper, and I'm okay with it being around this color right here. So I'm going to click. I want a little bit of a darker than that, so it's darker down here on the bottom part. So I'm clicking that. Now keep in mind when you do that, the warnings, these labels on here, they darken as well. So if you're really concerned about seeing them, you should really use the free selection tool and cut them out, get them on a different layer, and then change the color on this. I'm not so worried about that. We'll still be able to see it. It will be a little bit more of a challenge to read. As you can see, it's brighter up here on this. This was the default color, and now it's darker because I've darkened it. So I will give this a color. I'll call it gray or instruments. I'll just call it instruments like I did for the layer. Because if I want to do the free selection tool on this side and make it the same color, now I already have a preset color for that. So that's colored. Let's see what else we could. Well, I'll tell you what, let me make this a little smaller. Now, you could use the free, yeah, I'll just do the carpet. I don't want to do the free selection tool on all of this because it'll take a little bit more time, but I have done it, gone around, done the free selection tool, and manipulated all of the upholstery at one time by changing the color. So for this, I'll just do the mats. And I'll use the free selection tool. Again, let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, first I need to make sure I'm on the file that has it. So when I cut it, it will be available. And I'm just going to go into the black here. Now I don't want to do that yet. I want to move this up just a little bit because I don't want it to have interfered or interacted with any of that gray below it. So I'm going to connect the dots here, do a Control X, create a new layer, a lot of layers, and we'll call this mats. Could call it floor mats. And we can colorize this as well. I think there was a way to just make it gray, but I don't remember everything that I do. I just play with all of the color features until I figure out what I want. But let's start with colorize. As you can see, we've already got a nice bluish color in there, but I'm going to use the dropper for this, and I'm just going to select the gray that's out here. And now we have gray floor mats. And what we can do, we'll save it, and we'll just call it gray. If there's a way to delete those, I need to know what that is too, because I'm going to have so many of them in there after this. I may not need them all. And I'm sure there probably is a way. What does this button do? Manage presets. Yeah, so I could probably click on that and go in and delete the presets. Let me just look at that. Yeah. So there's a delete button right there. So I can delete all the last used, or I can delete any of these. So that's good. That's good to know. I just answered my own question. Oh, I didn't want to undo my color. All right, let's go back. We did save the preset, so we can go back into colorize, and we can click on gray mats and click OK, and we're done. Now we've made those changes. We didn't change the default beige on anything yet. That could be done. I think one of the ways I was doing that was I was selecting. Actually, before I do that, let me deselect those mats. Selection tool. There. Okay, and I'm going to go back to the main layer here. And colors, I think I was just doing, was I doing brightness and contrast? Well, you can see you can change the brightness and contrast of it there. That's not how I was changing to gray. Let me just look here for a moment. Bear with me. Well, we could do rotate colors, maybe. Maybe that would work. Let's try that. That's one tool that I've been using a little bit. So anything that would fall within the yellowish realm, which the beige falls within that realm, we can turn this knob down here let me expand this a little bit and make this one smaller. And as you can see, we've kind of got a bluish hue or bluish green, a little almost kind of gray right there. It's kind of grayish looking, not exactly gray. Here's a gray mode right here, gray threshold. Here we go. That's great. So if we really wanted to make it all gray right there, that's probably what I adjusted previously. Now there's a little bit of a blue hue here, so I would have had, or whatever that is that's making that do that. So I would have had to adjust. Probably just change the threshold. And when I did this, I'll click OK on it because we can undo it. So now we have we have a lot gray, and we've changed more than we've wanted to because some of these pieces here that should be all red, they kind of now have different colors in them. And let's look. Is the yoke in this file? I don't know where the yoke is at. But at some point when I was modifying the files, I ended up changing the color of the yoke. Yeah, here's the pieces of the yoke right here. But I don't know which one pertains to the buttons. That looks like it might be part of the button, but it doesn't look like all of it. So that will take some time for me to figure out where the buttons are for the yoke that I messed up. But in any case, you see now how we changed the gray. So if I do Control Z, it will undo all that, and now I'm back to beige. And if I do Control Y, I can make it gray again. So those are just some more hotkeys. You could also go up to File, no, Edit, and then you could do Undo, and undo whatever your last thing was, or you can do Redo whatever your last action was. So yeah, I won't worry about that right now because I don't want to make this video too long, but I just wanted to give you all some idea of how you can manipulate the colors within the aircraft files. And this is, we started with a DDS file, so the Gimp can work with DDS, but we're going to export it from here. See, it says overwrite Cockpit.dds. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to export as, and we are in full white copy, objects copy. Okay, so I'm going to export it as Cockpit, and it's going to, but I don't want it to be DDS. I want it to be show all file types. I want it to be PNG, so I'm going to look for PNG. Here's PNG format. That's what I want. Cockpit.png. So I'm going to export, and then we get some more options once we click that. I do not want to compress it, and I think by default it's compressed. So I slid my slider here. I don't want to lose any detail due to compression. And I also deselected a couple of these that I didn't think I necessarily needed. So I have it down to bare minimum. You can do, let me do load defaults. So it looks like I unchecked save background color. I'm going to leave it at defaults, but I am going to undo the compression level, and I'm going to export. So now we have a new cockpit file. I'll minimize this and F5 on here just in case. So cockpit.png, so I am going to Control X on that file and go out of here and go into my objects folder. And we have a cockpit.dds. I'm going to rename this because I don't want it to override. I'll just call it original or orig.orig. And then I'm going to paste my PNG in here. And this is the one that's going to get used when we launch X-Plane. Now I'm doing all of this on a laptop right now, and X-Plane 11 doesn't display at its best on this laptop. So just giving you a heads up. Okay, we'll do new flight and customize, and what we want to do is we want to do the full white copy. And you can name that livery anything you want. I just left it as full white copy to indicate that I had made a copy, that it was a copy of a full white, and there's no ambiguity to it because we know exactly what it is. So this is now slightly gray. This is not your default color. As you notice, you can barely see the warning labels in here. And I'm going to switch to the default full white livery in just a minute and show you the difference. The dash is a lot lighter, and that you can actually see the warning text a little bit more. You might have to zoom in to be able to read it on the default, but it does change. So now we have our green and red seat belts and our green and red trim. And we changed the mats to gray, but we did not in the end change the color of from beige to gray. I left it. But everything that we've changed is showing up, and that's all there is to modifying those files. So let me switch now to the default white, full white, that we did not make any changes to. And you can see now the dash is much lighter gray, and we can actually see the warnings. Now, they would be a whole lot more easily seen if I were not on this laptop and using it with a better computer with better graphics. I've had to knock the graphics way down. But that stuff is actually readable when you're using a decent computer, and it's visible. But yeah, that's all it is. So if you found anything useful in this video and you feel enabled, give me a like, a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't. And sometime as I'm doing more, learning more, I'll do some more videos on how to change like the external aspect of the aircraft, changing the wing colors and whatnot. We can do all of that. Now this is, if you notice all the water around me, it's because I'm using the demo version of X-Plane just for testing and whatnot to look at the aircraft files. I don't want to pay for the X-Plane more than one time, so I only have it installed on my gaming computer. And all of this that I'm doing with the Gimp is on my laptop. Anyways, YouTube, thank you for watching, and have a good day.